So today I'm going to talk about whether Swiss real estate is a speculative asset because I have read a lot about this online. I've seen things on social media and people making claims about real estate, not just in Switzerland, but all over the world being a speculative asset. And I wanted to look into whether that is actually the case, specifically in Switzerland. And I wanted to do so by comparing real estate to an actually speculative asset, which is art. So let's get into it. The comparisons will start to make sense when we dive in. So the art market and how it operates is basically that there is the primary art market and the secondary art market. And what art galleries are fundamentally in the business of doing is that they create a price floor for an artist's works. And because art doesn't have any intrinsic financial value, it might have other types of value, but we're talking about the financial aspects. It doesn't have any intrinsic value, so its value is entirely socially constructive. And when you look at what a speculative asset actually is, it is something that doesn't hold any sort of value other than you hoping to get a certain price for it tomorrow that ideally is more than what you paid for that asset in the first place. And art is a very good example of that. So what art galleries do is they set a certain price floor for an artist's works, and they will never sell it for under that ticket price unless it's in secret. So if an artist isn't selling, they would rather hide all of their works in a warehouse and then secretly sell off those works to collectors or museums or anybody that is willing to offer a price that is slightly lower than their ticket price. But this will be entirely under like an NDA process, and art galleries will go to kind of extraordinary lengths to protect the price floor. They will also, in secondary auctions, they will bid on artworks so that a certain artist that they're working with, for example, doesn't get burned, which is to say, if an artist's work is sold at a public auction for less than it originally sold at an art gallery, so which is to say it lost value, they will go on the bidding floor and bid for that work. And they will go through all of these sorts of measures to protect these artists and to protect the price floor. And why they do this is because they are in the business of protecting the collector. So these collectors are a very small group of people or institutions like museums, and they can't jeopardize those relationships. These are usually ultra high net worth individuals or institutions that aren't, exactly easy to replace. So they are in the business of protecting their interests, and they are first and foremost accountable to and bound by those relationships. So with regard to valuing real estate, what Swiss banks will do when somebody wants a mortgage for a property, they look at the property and they use something called the IAZI or Wüstpartner, and they will basically use the software to determine the price of a property based on location, volume, square meters, and the age of the property. And so they analyze similar transactions and it will come up with like a figure, but it is based on purely mathematical calculation. And it is not possible for Swiss banks to engage in any sort of price fixing like art galleries can do, for example, because of this fact. Also, they are highly regulated and they have a more diverse group of stakeholders that they are accountable to. So, like we mentioned, with regard to art, the galleries and the secondary market, so the auction houses and so on, they are first and foremost beholden to and accountable to the collectors who will buy those works. Whereas banks, they don't need to protect the borrowers as a class of people at all. In fact, they're completely agnostic to, the borrower themselves. Even if they're an ultra high net worth individual, that won't change anything with regard to how they value a property. If a billionaire wants to buy a completely run down property for $5 million and it's actually worth $2 million based on those calculations, the bank isn't going to value it in a different way just because they want to keep that billionaire. So if they want to keep the client and they are, a small private bank, then what they could do is they could give them a Lombard loan or structure it in a different way, but they're absolutely not going to change anything with regard to the valuation of the actual asset, which is to say the real estate. So with real estate in Switzerland, it is completely tethered to the physical utility of the asset, which is to say, can someone live there? How large is it? How many people can live there? Can it be rented out? And if so, for what amount of money? So these are very fundamental differences if you compare the two. So just to kind of tie up everything that I talked about, even though is sometimes said on social media mostly, I don't see any sort of financial publication reporting things like this. But yes, on social media, you do see from time to time people saying that there's a speculative housing bubble. And I do not believe that that is the case in Switzerland at all. In fact, I think it couldn't be further from the truth, because a speculative sort of housing bubble usually requires a kind of cocktail of different types of things, including subprime borrowers, a lot of loose credit to developers, building more than there is demand for, which is certainly not the case in Switzerland. It's quite the opposite. There's not enough being built actually to satisfy the demand. So all of these factors kind of show us that real estate here is not speculative or at risk of being a bubble. So I think it is a very reliable investment for people that want to stay here in Switzerland long term. And I would kind of maybe drown out that noise. And what I wanted to do with this video actually was just to provide a good comparison with a genuinely speculative asset, because it kind of helps to show that real estate here is not a speculative asset. One of the hallmarks, actually, in my opinion, of speculative assets is also that the return on investment in those asset classes tend to be higher, because otherwise people would kind of take that risk. But yeah, please do let me know in the comments if you agree with how I thought about this. It was kind of a thought experiment for me too. So I would love to hear your thoughts, and yeah, maybe to even continue the conversation based on like another type of asset. I really like doing these comparisons. So I would love to hear what you thought about it, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.